Hey, I'm Lex.
And I'm Serena,
host of the Body Playbook podcast,
a show all about transforming your life
and your body to what you've always dreamed of.
On our show, you're going to find hella inspiring guests,
and you'll get weight loss tips galore from top pros in the industry.
And you're going to hear fitness secrets from the CCP team.
Plus, you'll get nutrition and training help with our Is It Worth It episodes, where we'll review the latest trends hitting the internet to let you know if it's actually worth your time.
Listen every Wednesday to the Body Playbook.
Welcome back, guys, to the Body Playbook podcast. We have our second guest. You're only our second guest, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Travis Dalrymple. Yeah?
Yes!
Yay!
Yeah, nailed it.
Heck yeah. I was practicing how to say his last name, but I'm super excited to have him on and talk today about limiting beliefs and mindset. This is one of my business coaches that I've worked with for a little over a year now. And when I say he's one of the coaches that calls me out on my shit the most, like, that's him. And so he's probably the best person to have come on and talk about this topic. So I'm super, super excited to dive into it. I don't even know where this conversation is completely going to go, but I'm excited for it.
We're ready for it.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I'm just stoked to be here.
Sweet. Okay. So do you want to introduce yourself any other way or go over any other thing that before we're diving in?
No, my
Okay.
name's Travis. I like helping people break through and limiting beliefs and grow businesses and just kind of help them become higher versions of themselves. And that's my main job. That's what I do for a living. So I just love doing this shit.
Yeah. And you're good at it.
I think my question is, how did you start or get into it? Because obviously you probably just didn't come out of the womb that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. I popped right out and I was like, I'm going to be a limiting beliefs coach. No, it's a good question. So my entrepreneurial journey and trying to figure out who I am kind of journey started in 2010 when I happened to find myself on America's Got Talent, the actual TV show.
Oh.
I haven't spilled any of
Yeah.
this to her yet. So
Yeah,
she's
this
not
is all
heard this
new.
story.
This is all new to me.
What's up, y'all? So we don't run ads on this podcast, and we probably won't ever. Our goal here is to share as much information and value with you as possible, with a little entertainment, of course. But with that, we need your help in getting the word out about the Body Playbook. So all we're asking for you to do is send this episode to a friend that you think would really benefit from it, or share it on your social media stories and tag us. Also, one other thing we're going to be doing is giving away a $100 Amazon gift card to someone who rates and reviews this podcast every single month. So thank you in advance, and we're looking forward to reading your reviews, but we'll get back to the episode.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's the short version because the long version is quite long. But I was in a fraternity at Virginia Tech. We did a talent show, which was this black light thing on campus. So we entered the talent show, did a fun black light dance illusion thing, and someone posted that video to YouTube, and then it got about 500,000 hits. And one of those comments said, "You should submit this to America's Got Talent." So somebody did at 2 a.m. when they were hammered, as one does in college.
Yep.
And America's Got Talent actually called us and said, "We want you to come on the show," which we thought was a joke, but they were serious. So 13 of us got together, put together a 90-second routine. We flew to Manhattan kind of on a whim, thinking a free trip to the city, this would be great.
Yep.
But we ended up making it through that round and the next one and the next one and the next one. And over the course of maybe 5 months, we actually placed third on the show that year in 2010.
Wow. Wait, I think I might have seen it.
You can look it up on YouTube still. I've done
I
it.
probably have seen it. I feel like I might have.
Yeah.
It's a really cool
Yeah,
light
it
show
would-
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Fighting Gravity. And then there was a bunch of imitators after us that could never do as well as we did.
Yep. Just couldn't. You set the bar too high.
That's right.
No. So from there, we went on tour across the United States for about 3 months, did a 25-city tour with the show. And then over the next decade, we actually built a corporate entertainment business where we would fly all over the world and do 5 to 15-minute shows for corporate entertainment, Fortune 500 companies, all that kind of stuff. So that my whole journey about being a leader and a business owner and all that stuff really happened over that decade. And during that decade, I also got into CrossFit. I became a CrossFit coach, a gym manager, and then really started coaching people one-on-one and trying to get them to be like, hey, there's other things to talk about besides your squat here, because I was going through a lot in my business journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really took a turn when I joined the mentorship that I'm a part of right now and ended up getting hired by them. And we had a mentor of our own. His name's Tim Bishop. And Tim got on a call with the whole entire team of 30. And just the way he was speaking and the way he was dissecting what people said and how he was actually understanding what they truly meant. When I saw him do that, my thought was, wow, if I had that superpower, I could really change people's lives to a degree that I didn't really understand was possible. So he really opened up my eyes to it. And then from there, I just said, man, if I can just, get some of this Tim stuff going on, I'll be good to go. And that's been a constant practice for about the past 3 years. That's the short version.
Wow.
Yeah. Serena's like, I was not expecting that.
I know.
Yeah, it's a really cool story, actually. I think that's like maybe the third time I've heard you tell that story now, because we remember I heard it at the mastermind, then I heard it in Austin. Now again, and it's still just like really cool. Okay, well, let's just kind of dive into this first, which we kind of came up with a bunch of questions, hoping to just like kick off really good conversation off of it. The first one that I would think is really important is, why do you think it's important to address these mindset and limiting belief issues in order to achieve personal growth, success, especially in the health and fitness space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mainly because people think that they need the tactics and the strategies to grow, which, while that's true, they don't take into account that they also have to change as a person in order to effectively implement those tactics and strategies, whether it be business related or health and wellness related. Like if you're trying to lose weight, the person that you are today can't be the person that loses 30 pounds. Those are different people, and those people have different beliefs and different values and different habits, different ways they operate, and the same thing for business. So the reason why I think it's so important is because if you don't tackle those limiting beliefs, they'll just come up during those tactics and strategies, and you won't actually have the success that you're looking for because you're not truly changing as a person.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
I love that answer. Remember the masterclass I told you I was taking the other day for like sales and stuff about persuasion? She was literally talking about this same thing of you have to change who you are to get what you need to get done. You don't need to necessarily change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like sales is a great example, right? So if you're in a sales mentorship or you take a masterclass on sales, but you don't fundamentally believe that sales is service, you're not going to implement any of that stuff. If you believe sales is slimy, you're not going to implement any of that stuff. So the tactics and strategies are great, but the underlying beliefs do have to change over time. Like it's not a, snap your fingers and you suddenly believe something different, but it does have to change.
Right. So it's almost like you're having to see yourself as the future self. But how do you do that? Because I know you're also really big on like staying in the present and like actually not thinking future, past, all over the place with that. So how would you recommend someone, yes, put yourself in like your future self's shoes and work towards that and believe that you're already kind of there in a sense, but also staying present?
You really have to focus on the action that you're going to take instead of the resistance that you're feeling.
Okay.
So when it comes to that, most people have the belief that because they feel resistance, they can't act.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have that belief, then you would just act instead, and you'd be making decisions as though you were already the next version of yourself without really knowing who that person is yet. But the only way you get there is through actions. It's not through you sitting in a rocking chair and examining all of your thoughts and feelings and emotions and saying, oh, I solved it. I finally figured it out.
Yeah.
It only happens when you actually start taking action, however big or small they may be.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Can we break it down with like an example of a limiting belief that, I don't know, like one of our potential clients or one of our clients has? For instance, I think one of the biggest ones that like we hear a lot is like, well, my family's overweight. We've got a lot of health issues in our family. And so I'm just unhealthy and that's why I'm overweight.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really common one.
Yeah.
So that's just like a really popular one. I think a lot of people listening to can relate to that.
Or like I've always been overweight my whole life, so that's just how it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, so that's a good one. And I just want to start by defining what a limiting belief is, because it means different things to different people. And there's also people that have no idea what that means.
True. Yeah.
So a limiting belief is just a story that you're telling yourself that's preventing you from becoming who you want to be. 9 times out of 10, it's subconscious and you're not even aware of it, and someone else has to point it out to you. Again, you're not going to sit in a rocking chair and suddenly figure this stuff out.
Yeah, right.
So if someone came to me and said, this is the way that I've always been, this is how my family is, so on and so forth, so I can never change, the first thing I would ask them is, how do you know that? Because the reality is that they don't have a time machine.
Yeah.
The belief that they're actually dealing with is that they've possibly tried things in the past or they've seen their family not succeed. So the belief is there's no point in even trying. That's way easier than actually trying.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to limiting beliefs, it's essentially just a story that's not serving you. And stories that don't serve you are usually extremely short. So in your example, my family's always been this way and nothing's going to change for me. As soon as you say that, the story's already over.
Yeah.
There is no more because you don't take any action. You don't attempt anything. So it's so easy to tell ourselves a negative version as opposed to a positive version. So if I said, my family's always been this way, but I'm going to go for it. Now the future is really unclear. It's very murky. Like, I'm not sure which direction I need to go. Do I need to get a coach? Do I need to do that? So it's so much harder for people to deal with that. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Scary, yeah.
Then
it's new.
Yeah, as opposed to nothing's going to change. End of story. I don't even have to try.
Yeah.
So I think
it's challenging. It's to challenge yourself to get over the barriers of just like living in like this is easy life. Like, why would I like put any extra thing on my life to where I have to work and put an effort to actually get there, when that also there again is another limiting belief that a lot of people have too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people also use past data to justify the future when it suits them in a scenario like that.
Like nothing ever.
So,
or I'll lose the 15 pounds and then I'm just going to give it back. Yeah.
Right. Which is also a limiting belief that's not serving them.
Exactly.
So a more aggressive way to handle that, and this isn't something I would say to someone, it's more just like for conversational purposes, is my family's been doing that and nothing ever works and nothing's ever gonna, like, since I was born this way, I'm not even gonna try. It's like, okay, what does them having all of that have to do with literally anything? Yeah. Like, so what?
Yep.
That's so true.
Like, and you can still do it.
Yeah. And then if you do look at someone and be like, okay, so what are you going to do to like switch that cycle? It normally throws people for a loop and they're like, whoa, wait, what? Like, normally
you're not agreeing with me?
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone's so agreeable to like the negative in life. Like you said before, it's so easy to talk negative about yourself. It's awkward and weird to like lift yourself up. And we were just talking about this on another episode before. Like, it's weird. It's awkward to like positively talk about yourself and lift yourself up in like a light when like you just see you don't actually believe it within yourself, but then it's so easy to just drag yourself down and down and down. Even if you are taking the steps forward, you may feel like you're not doing enough, which again, another one right there, but it just is those steps forward that the self-talk has such a foundational aspect of it to get you to that next step.
Have you heard health and fitness coaches talk about how your metabolism can help you burn fat even while you're sleeping? And you just think, how? Trust me, we get it. It's all so confusing to know what you need to do to get your metabolism working the way you want it to. But today, you're in luck. We have created a done-for-you daily checklist that will set your metabolism on fire. All you have to do is DM us checklist and we will send it your way completely for free. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't question their thoughts in that manner anyway.
Oh, no, yeah.
So it's starting with the awareness of just because I have a thought doesn't mean that I have to actually do anything with it, or that it doesn't also mean that it's true by default. So if I said to someone, your family's always been this way, therefore you can't, or if someone said that to me and I said, okay, so like, is that objectively true? And the answer is no, because there are I'm using positive data, they're using negative data. Do you know anyone that's lost weight? Yes. Okay, so it is possible just by default.
Right.
So people don't question their own thoughts or feelings, and they automatically deem them to be true without even really having any system in place or any framework around being aware about their thoughts and their own reality that they're creating for themselves.
I have a tangent.
Yeah.
Do you
Let's
think
do it.
that it's possible for other people to place limiting beliefs on you?
I would say that's where they come from.
Okay.
All right. So if we just took like a little baby and like dropped it in the middle of another planet and it grew up and somehow managed to survive and all that stuff, they're not really going to have any beliefs about anything except what they encounter in their environment.
Right.
So everyone's beliefs across the board come from their family or however they grew up. So a great example of this is if I took someone that lives in a small town that makes $30,000 a year, and every single other person in that town makes $30,000 a year, the chances of that person ever saying, I can make $1 million are borderline zero until you place them in an environment where that is normal.
Yeah.
So if I took a $30,000 a year person and isolated them in a group of 20 people and all of them are making $1 million, suddenly that person's beliefs are going to slowly start to change because they didn't even know that those things were possible. They didn't even know the beliefs that they had. So it's all of it is dictated by how you're raised and your environment, whether that's in the past or right now. If you're still in a shitty environment that's not serving you, it's not going to help. Another like health and wellness example of that is if you're trying to lose weight and your 5 best friends are also overweight, you're going to have a hell of a time. But if suddenly your 5 best friends are all shredded, I can almost guarantee you that over time, you will also become shredded.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why too, like within our one-on-one programming that we do, like community is such a heavy aspect of it because a lot of people don't have those relationships in their real life that they can lean on and stuff. And by providing that, it's like, this is your safe space to lean and support on with either us as your coaches or like your peers inside this group as well. So that's like, I feel like it's not an easy out of things because nothing in this is easy. But like, if you're looking to try to find or get healthier into your lifestyle and stuff like that, find a community, whether it be a Facebook page or whatever it may be. Find like a little group that you can just kind of surround yourself with like-minded people, because you're completely right. If you're surrounded by people who are like, let's go out and drink and go get McDonald's every single night, every single day of the week, you're never going to reach those goals. They're always just you're going to be stuck in that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a great way to even accelerate that more is if you do find someone that has the things that you're trying to get, just ask them what they believe, or just ask them 1,000 questions until you figure it out. And you're going to go, wow, I don't believe a majority of these things. Like I didn't even consider that. And that's really going to open up your mind too.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm just thinking of like my questions on like the group calls and stuff with business coaching and stuff like that. Even by just hearing other people ask questions, it's like, oh, that's a good thought. That helps me there. That helps me there. And so like getting into those scenarios and those environments that can help you push you in the right direction towards your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sooner you can get in those rooms and do those things, the more you're going to have the life that you want. Because the reality is that if you want to live a common life, have common beliefs. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you need extraordinary beliefs. Like you're not going to find someone that lives an extraordinary life that has common beliefs. You're not going to find someone making $1 million that has $30,000 beliefs. You're not going to find someone that's shredded that has the same beliefs as someone that's 50 pounds overweight. Like those things do not exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that little quote that you just said. That's good.
Yeah, that is good.
That's great. That was really good. I don't think I've heard you say that. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay, so how do you think that these beliefs, if people don't overcome these things and take these steps to get out of this like self-limiting hole, how's it going to impact like personal life as well as like, of course, their goals and stuff like that, but just from reaching their full potential in life in general?
It just makes it so much more difficult, especially when you don't know what those things are, or you're not in the community for somebody else to point it out. Like you're just going to feel like you're spinning your wheels, or you're going to start to resent yourself or other people that have the thing that you want. It's just not a healthy place to be in, especially if you're really trying to change, but you have no idea what to do or like what the problem is. Most people will just turn around and start placing blame on others instead of themselves. And they start to remove responsibility. And instead of life happening through them, it's happening, quote, to them. And it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
And it's like internal resentment that creates that whole dynamic. If you don't actively work on these things or get to the point where you're in a community and that community can help you, like it can be really, really detrimental.
Yeah. Okay. So tying on to that, a lot of people, we were just chatting before popping on here, I think specifically with a lot of our clients as well, when we're kind of pointing things out to people, a lot of people don't realize they have limiting beliefs at all. Like it's very common for someone to not even know what it is and not know that that's a thing. So how would you recommend like we start identifying these things within ourselves?
So you really got to watch out for the kind of stories that you're telling yourselves and the thoughts that you're having. So anything that starts with I can't do this, I shouldn't do that, I'm overwhelmed, because just because they did it doesn't mean I can. Like, any story that's not serving you in some capacity is usually 9 times out of 10 a limiting belief. And the reason they're so tricky to identify is because all of those thoughts are just happening internally, or you don't even realize the beliefs that you have. So there's two things I usually recommend to folks to really hack the system. And the first one is to actually talk about your thoughts out loud. Because if you're saying, I'm overweight and nothing's ever going to fix this in your head, that's very, very different than walking around your house and saying that all day long.
Yeah.
Because when you hear yourself say it, you're going to be like, man,
that is not
that
true.
Feels kind of aggressive.
Yeah, it's like, that's
why
mean.
Why am I speaking to myself like that? Like, that's not going to help me.
Yeah.
But it requires the audio. It requires you to actually hear it because it sounds different than you just thinking it.
That's so true.
I like that.
Yeah. And a brief thought is just like a brief thought. And if you actually like put emphasis to it, you're like, oh shit, like that's actually not nice to myself.
So there's that. And then the other side of that is journaling, which most people are familiar with. Just actually writing out your thoughts without a filter can help you pick out sentences that you write that don't serve you. So if you just unfilter, vomit your thoughts onto a piece of paper, you're going to find some things that you probably don't like, and you're going to read them aloud and go, wow, that's just not something that's helping me. Like, I got to work on that.
Oh my God. I was reading old journal entries the other day and I was just like, why?
Right? Yeah.
Why did I write this? Why did I think this about myself?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Because I mean, yeah, especially as going through in the health and wellness space, a lot of times when we first were starting out, we didn't like ourselves very much, like that's why we were wanting to change. That's why we were wanting to make a difference. And so even if you didn't journal, you could probably think back to thoughts that you used to have about yourself, or the way you used to look at yourself in the mirror and think, oh gosh, I look so fat. I'm never going out in public wearing this again, or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another way to help with that, because it is difficult to identify your core beliefs without talking to somebody else and like them asking you some questions, but you can do it. You just need to practice. So where I usually start people is with the actions that they didn't take. So going to the gym, or in this case, not going to the gym, is a really easy example. So, you're trying to get into shape.
If you guys are really loving and relating to this conversation and want to continue to learn more about this topic and countless others, listen up. This is for you. We want to give you access to our free community of women on similar paths to you. Shoot us a DM on Insta with the word Facebook and we will get you in there ASAP.
You're supposed to go to the gym, but you didn't go. It's like, okay, what were you feeling that didn't make you go to the gym? Well, I was feeling depressed, overwhelmed, sad, insert the blank. Let's just go with depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, you were feeling depressed, so you didn't go to the gym. What would you have had to believe to feel depressed? Well, like, this isn't going to work for me. It's like, okay, cool. That's the belief. Then you can ask yourself, is that objectively true? And most people by default will answer yes, but the reality is no, that's not objectively true. There's other people that have done it. Therefore, by default, you can too. If they're human and you're human, 99% chance you can do the same thing. Yeah. So it's starting with actions or interactions. What were you feeling in that moment? What would you have had to believe to feel that way? And that can get you back to that core belief. And then you can ask yourself objectively, is this belief, which is just a thought, true or false? And as soon as you can say it's false, you get the option to say, what do I want to believe instead? Then that can really start to change your life.
Yeah, I like that breakdown of it. And a lot of people listening might think, wow, that takes a lot of steps and stuff. But like it's worth the work to put in to figure that out, to overcome on the other end of things. And none of this is, you've heard me talk for the past year now. Like, I still have certain things that I say that like I've been trying to work through. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think that's a big thing too. People will try to start correcting themselves and then they keep slipping up or they keep making mistakes and they're like, oh, screw it, it's too hard. Like, same thing with fitness and stuff, right? Like, they keep trying. It's not seeing results overnight and throwing their hands in the air.
Well, that's what I kind of wanted to touch on or ask is like, how do you think when we have the all or nothing mindset in this instance or with fitness that we can overcome those limiting beliefs? Because I feel like those are limiting beliefs in themselves.
Specifically around the all or nothing mindset?
Yeah.
People that have an all or nothing mindset don't consider the degree to which they can do something. So for example, most people go from 0 to 100 or, nothing to all instantaneously. So if, I haven't worked out in 10 years, I'm going to work out 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That's not going to work because the person that you are can't work out 7 days a week right now.
Right.
Maybe they can do 2 or 3 and you can build up to that. But again, it's not the tactic to the strategy. It's that you have to change who you are as a person. So for people that have that all or nothing mindset, you want to think, to what degree do I want to insert the blank? All right, I need to start working out. I'm going to work out every day. It's like, no. To what degree do you actually need to work out? Well, actually, probably like 3 times a week. Like, cool. Let's start with that. You don't need to do 7. Right. Same thing with food or water, getting steps in, or your sleep. It's to what degree do I have to actually put in, X amount of effort to get the desired result that I actually want.
Yeah. I like that. Another one that we hear kind of in the same realm of the all or nothing, but carbs. I feel like carbs is one of the biggest, carbs. That's all I have to say. It's one of the biggest things that we have got to like chip away at with some of our clients and even people that we just have conversations with in like Facebook group and stuff like that, because diet culture has taught us that carbs make us fat in quotation marks, right? We have a lot of fear around carbs and stuff. And obviously that limiting belief is coming from society, diet culture, things you see in the media, stuff like that. But a lot of people do truly believe that it is true, because I know a lot of the questions relate back to, is this true? A lot of people say it is true because I've eaten more carbs in the past and I've gained weight. And whenever I restrict carbs, I lose weight. So any recommendations around like chipping away at that thought specifically? Because it's a pretty common one.
Yeah, it's tough because you're fighting against multi-million-dollar organizations.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Lie to the public about what they need to eat and how much they need to exercise and all that. Yeah. So just for anyone listening, carbs are not the enemy.
Yeah, there we go.
They're just a they're just a type of nutrient. That's literally it. So if someone said to me, carbs are the enemy, carbs make me fat, I'd be like, okay, so like carbs are calories, right? And they would go, right. It's like, so you're saying calories are making you fat? And they would go, yeah, exactly. And I would go, okay, how many calories specifically? Yeah. And then there's a good chance they're not going to know anything after that.
You're going to get stumped.
Like, you're already going to get stumped because they're going to go, well, I don't know. It's like, okay, so you're saying that you don't know how many overall calories you're eating, right? Right. It's like, okay, so then how do you know carbs are the culprit? Yeah. And then they go, well, I don't. It's like, oh, okay. So let's talk about what the culprit could be. And then, whatever's going on with them, it would kind of depend. But the reality is that just for everyone, again, carbs are not the enemy. They're perfectly fine.
Okay, so just playing devil's advocate here for a minute. If someone respond to you saying, how do you know that carbs are the enemy? And they said, well, because whenever I ate more carbs, I gained weight. Like that was their answer to it.
Yeah. So let's have a fake conversation.
Yeah.
Okay,
I knew he was going to go into this.
Love the fake combo.
You say your part. I'll say my part.
Okay. You want me to start?
Okay. Yeah, you start.
Carbs make me fat.
What do you mean?
I mean, I gain weight every time I eat more carbs, and I don't want to gain weight.
All right. Okay. So you gain weight every time you eat more carbs.
Right.
So how many carbs are you eating?
Do you want me to be like realistic? Like I can give you my macros if you want. I don't know. Yeah. Most of the time it's going to be I don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that you're not sure how many carbs you're eating, but you're also saying that they're making you fat.
Right. Yes.
How so?
Because when I eat potatoes, the scale goes up.
Okay. So this is specifically about the scale.
Yeah. Because I don't want the scale to go up. I want the scale to go down.
Okay. So when should the scale go up versus when should the scale go down?
Well, I think the scale should always be going down.
Okay, so what if you just ate lunch literally 10 minutes ago? Do you expect the scale to go down?
Like if I got on it right now?
Yeah, you ate lunch 10 minutes ago. You get on the scale. Do you expect it to say a higher number or a lower number?
Realistically, it'll probably say higher, but I would hope for a lower.
So you're saying that it shouldn't actually always be lower?
Probably not.
Probably not, or no?
No, I knew he was going to say that. I knew you were going to throw that one at me. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really just taking what people are saying and asking them for clarification.
That was a great breakdown.
Yeah.
It requires whoever is like trying to break that belief just to be immensely curious and cautious about leading the conversation
Mhm.
because when you just said something around the scale, I could have ignored that.
Yeah.
But it's like, but even in this fake conversation, that's what popped in your head. So that could have been actually a true belief that has nothing to do with carbs.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when we start searching for people's beliefs, you're really just digging a hole and like digging and asking questions. And you might get to the bottom of that hole and go, oh, nothing down here. I actually have to ask a different question and like dig a different hole and
Yeah.
have to try again. And maybe those holes are connected underground, maybe they're not.
Mhm.
But it's really just digging and coming out if needed, digging, coming out if needed, until you're like, oh, I struck gold. It's right there.
That was a really good example walkthrough though, because I feel like even if it's not the carb scenario, whether it's because the scale is a big barrier for a lot of girls too coming into the program, or like I said, people that aren't even in the program that we just talked to. And that's like the roadblock for a lot of people. As soon as the scale jumps back up, they're like, panic mode. I need to go back into a cut. I need to go do more cardio, you know, the whole nine.
I need to take out carbs.
Right. And so working through that, no matter where it starts at, I feel like a lot of times with a lot of our girls specifically right now, it would kind of end at that scale conversation. Because in the long run, I get where they're coming from because that's their goal, right? They want to lose weight, but also working around the scale and getting it out, which is a side tangent, is like body composition and stuff like that. The scale doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And there's also a limiting belief around most people think the number on the scale is their weight.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not true. The number on the scale is just a measurement of gravity. And those are two entirely different things. Because going back to the example of you just ate 10 minutes ago, it's like, okay, like technically your pull against gravity has changed because you literally have food in your system. You just ate, whatever, a half pound worth of food.
Yeah.
Like obviously the scale is going to say a different measurement now. But does that mean you actually weigh anything different? Like, no, not technically. So it's also a misunderstanding about what the scale number means. And that also comes from all the misinformation and bullshit of like the multi-million-dollar companies that are trying to sell people horrible products.
Exactly. It's like when someone gets on the scale and they see 140 pounds, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm 140 pounds fat. And it's like, no, that's not what that says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even more common example too is I got on the scale this morning. I was, 130. I got on the scale at night the same day and I'm 131.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, of course you are. You ate food throughout the day.
Have you heard health and fitness coaches talk about how your metabolism can help you burn fat even while you're sleeping? And you just think, how? Trust me, we get it. It's all so confusing to know what you need to do to get your metabolism working the way you want it to. But today, you're in luck. We have created a done-for-you daily checklist that will set your metabolism on fire. All you have to do is DM us checklist and we will send it your way completely for free. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
And did you drink water? Did you not? Like that's going to affect all that, but it doesn't mean that you gained any weight. So taking a single measurement at one point in time is not a useful data point. You need, like, if you really want to see how much you weigh yourself, 2-3 times a day for like 2 weeks and then don't change anything about your life, average the number. That's about how much you truly weigh.
Right. Nothing's linear here, you guys, with anything.
Exactly.
No.
Nothing's going to be linear. You're going to see ups and downs and all the types of changes. And especially as females too, like majority of our listeners are females, like different times of the month, like you're going to fluctuate so much. So little rabbit hole about the scale. I think that's really important though for people to hear.
I wish I could read that next question, but
Oh,
I can't. I'm blind.
Which one were we at?
I think we're at that one.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's bolded. I would hope I could see it. Okay, so what are some strategies that you recommend to identify, or did we kind of already talk about
We kind of talked about that. Yeah, identifying it. And I also think it would be really helpful, and Travis, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like we're talking about, like surrounding yourself with the right people. Like if I heard something coming out of your mouth that I was like, maybe we need to touch on that and stuff, like having the right people around you to kind of like call you out on your shit, pretty much, of letting you know, like, hey, maybe this is something to start digging at a little bit. I keep hearing you say this. And I mean, I know that can be awkward to like call friends out and stuff on it, but sometimes like it's nice to have those kind of people in your circle that are thinking about your future and what's best for you. I don't know. Do you think that would be, and even like letting your friends know, be like, hey, if you hear me saying stuff like this, like call me out. I mean, I would probably do that.
I think it's a fantastic idea. And if you want to really start to identify your own beliefs, try to figure out what other people believe.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So if I had a friend that's saying some weird stuff, all I'm really going to ask them is either, what do you mean by that? Or, hey, you just said this thing. Can you tell me more about that? And I'm just going to keep using a variation of those two questions. And I could ask someone that for 10 minutes, and that could be a whole conversation. And you could figure out what that person truly believes about whatever you guys are talking about, which will also help you ask yourself that question on a more regular basis. So you're kind of doing the process with someone else, which is helping you understand it and teach it to yourself more, and helping someone else, which in turn will make you understand the process even better and help you identify when to call yourself out on your own bullshit.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that's something that I could even start doing more, is picking up on it within other people, because
I give you permission.
Okay, thanks. Because I'm notorious for just like overlooking my limiting beliefs and stuff, but like I have my coaches that call me out on stuff. You've called me out on stuff before that, like, that's what I need in my life. But yeah, and that's a way of doing it too, to where it's not obvious that you're like picking at something. It's just like creating a conversation around it to get them to kind of hear what they're saying too.
Yeah, there's just a whole lot of curiosity. You're just trying to literally learn more.
Right.
And if you find something, great. If you can't find something, like, ask a different version of the question, or ask them about something they said previously, and you can just keep digging. Like, you could do that for a long time.
Yeah, you're really good. Okay.
I have a question. It's also kind of another tangent question. It's more so about you, but like, what was the most common limiting belief that you dealt with?
Oh, that's
No, I threw you for a loop.
The most common limiting belief that I've dealt with is probably some version of, I don't have the time, or I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, those things just come up all the time in so many different capacities or variations or degrees, but that's really at the root of it. It's just someone's afraid to try something slightly different than they've already tried, or they aren't willing, they're not actually open to a different way of thinking. Like, all those things that kind of get bundled together a little bit, but probably time and fear.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question, because the time one, it's like, when you just said that, obviously it makes sense that that's the limiting belief, but most of the time if someone's like, oh, I don't have time to do that, like, you wouldn't initially think this is a limiting belief.
Right.
So how would you decipher, like, just saying as a limiting belief, I don't have time, and like you accepting the fact that like you genuinely don't have time? I feel like there's a fine line.
Yeah.
So when most people say stuff like this, they'll actually say like, oh, I don't have the time for that.
Okay.
Right. In the middle of a bunch of other stuff. So in the health and wellness space, like, oh, I don't have time to work out. Okay. How much time do you need? Well, I need an hour. What do you need an hour for? Well, because that's what I've done in the past, or, that's how long the class is, insert the blanks. Like, well, what if you didn't need an hour? How much time do you actually have? Well, I have 10 minutes a day. It's like, okay, so you do have the time then. You're just not sure what to do in it.
Yeah. That's big.
Right. So like, people don't, like, they're using old software and while trying to buy new hardware.
Yeah.
So their operating system hasn't caught up with the thing they're actually trying to do, because it's just not realistic anymore. Or they have no concept of like how it can actually work for them, or other options that are available to them. Because if somebody had 5 minutes a day, it's like, hey, okay, for 5 minutes, you're just going to do burpees. And
Heidi's,
like,
whatever.
You're going to do that. You're going to do that for 5 minutes a day for 30 days. I can almost guarantee you're going to feel better after those 30 days than you do right now. And it's just 5 minutes.
That's so true.
So everybody's got 5 minutes. Even if people say they don't, like, you could figure that out.
You do somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So I think you did this with me one time, but my next thing kind of leads into reframing these limiting beliefs and kind of working backwards with it. I don't know if you remember when we had a conversation on one of the group calls. You like made me go through the whole thing in front of everyone, embarrassed the shit out of me. So you made me go through the whole thing, and then you also told me to walk around like my apartment, like repeating a phrase that I was like really nervous to say. So, and you just mentioned that tactic before when you were like walking around and repeating a phrase that's like negative to yourself. So is that, obviously that's one way of like kind of reframing things, but how would you like flip the switch on a lot of these limiting beliefs to like walk out of it instead of like just sitting in it?
Like what? Give me an example. What do you want to use?
Let's use like the scale and carb example that we were talking about.
So how do I reframe my belief that the scale is like end all be all?
Yeah.
So you can just ask yourself the opposite version of that question. So if I have a belief that the scale is end all be all, what if I'm wrong? If the scale is not end all be all, then what actually is it? And then you may have the answer to that, you may not. And if you don't, you want to find somebody that does.
Yeah.
Find somebody that trust, like has gotten people results with whatever you're trying to do, and say like, hey, what do you think the scale means? What is you're asking them what their belief about the scale is. And that's how you can start to reverse engineer some of that stuff. Because the reality is, like, if the listeners here take anything out of this podcast, it's that beliefs are optional. Everything you've ever believed is optional. So you can change that stuff on a whim if you have the awareness around it and you put in the work.
Beliefs are optional.
That's really good.
That's a mic drop moment.
Yeah, that's big. And like we mentioned before, just like the repetition of it and sticking with it and calling yourself out on it, or like you said, surrounding yourself with someone who's walked through it that can call you out on it and help guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
You looked like you were going to say something.
No, I was trying to read that, but I can't.
Oh, okay.
I'm really blind.
She's like over here squinting, and I'm like, what's happening? Okay, let's see. I feel like we've covered some of these questions just through like our conversation, so I don't want to be super repetitive with it.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Okay, well, this sort of ties into what we were just saying, though. Like taking action to change the mindset behavior, that's pretty much what we were just saying with like reaching out and stuff. But so let's talk about just dealing with this negative mindset then that's surrounded around these negative beliefs. Obviously, everyone listening is probably expecting me to say this, but like positive affirmations is like a good first step that I personally think. I've seen it work for me. I've seen it work for a lot of our clients, but I think it also depends on the person. You're laughing at me. Why are you laughing at me?
I am laughing because I have a pet peeve with affirmations.
Oh gosh,
no.
Here we go. Okay, what? Why?
Okay, I think affirmations are great if they are phrased appropriately.
Yeah,
I think if they are not phrased correctly, then they are way more harmful than they are helpful.
Okay, explain. What's like an improper phrase and what's a proper phrase?
Okay, what you have like an affirmation example?
Like
like something about I'm healthy or something.
Yeah, or I'm good enough, or I'm able, or
That's perfect.
Okay,
let's go with I'm healthy. So if I wake up every single day and I say I am healthy when I'm not, then every single day I'm just lying to myself.
Right.
And nothing objectively will change. Like just because I now suddenly am telling myself that I'm healthy, you're going to have a lot of trouble believing it because your brain knows that you're lying.
Yeah.
That's very, very different than saying I choose to be healthy.
Okay.
Because the only thing that we can do, there's nothing you can ever do except for take action. So if I reframe my affirmation to I choose to be healthy, that means when I come to a point in time each day where I have a choice and I can be healthy or I can be unhealthy.
If you guys are really loving and relating to this conversation and want to continue to learn more about this topic and countless others, listen up. This is for you. We want to give you access to our free community of women on similar paths to you. Shoot us a DM on Insta with the word Facebook and we will get you in there ASAP.
I'm constantly telling myself I choose to be healthy. So I take that path instead of the unhealthy one. The original affirmation of I am healthy doesn't allow you that same amount of power. So it's about the choices that you make, not about the things that you tell yourself.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you don't like the I am affirmations because there's no action paired to it. You're just claiming something that you're not. But if you actually pair choose, because subconsciously, if you tell yourself and look in the mirror every day, I choose to be happy, you're going to make smarter choices based off of starting your day off of that. So, okay, I see why. I understand. That makes a lot of sense.
I get to laughing.
Yeah, I get the giggles at my comment. I get it.
Yeah. And I have multiple of those that I do each day, like for the deficits in my life. And I've been doing those probably for like a year now. And I wouldn't call them deficits anymore. But now when I get to those decision points, I go, oh, I've been telling myself that I'm going to make this decision, that I'm going to choose to do this. So therefore, I already know what to do. It's kind of just like a mini roadmap for all those little micro decisions that pop out during the day.
Yeah, I like that. And we touch a lot on with our one-on-one clients too about making promises to yourself and keeping them and how it helps with self-confidence and your trust with others and yourself and stuff. And I feel like that's a starting point for it, because if you say you choose to do this, that's almost essentially making a promise to yourself for the rest of the day, and then sticking to that. It's only going to be a domino effect.
Yeah. And most people are really, really poor at keeping promises to themselves.
Oh yeah.
Which goes back to them actually not trusting their own abilities or their own person, which is a whole separate rabbit hole.
Right. Yeah. That's a whole like another hour and a half long podcast.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. I like that. That was good.
I like that a lot.
Okay. So, so do you want to add anything onto that?
No, but I can read that question.
Go for it, girl.
What would your main piece of advice or your main takeaway be for the listeners who are struggling with these types of beliefs or issues?
Oh, main takeaways. There would be 3, and I've already said 2 of them on this episode. Okay. So the first one is you might be wrong. The second one is that there's nothing to do but act. And the third one is that beliefs are optional. If you fundamentally believe those 3 things, you can have the ability to just create whatever life you want to create. And they're obnoxiously simplistic. It doesn't mean that they're easy, but if you truly do believe those 3 things, you can do whatever you want.
Can we touch on the "you might be wrong" statement? I feel like that's something we haven't.
Yeah, you might. Yeah. So you might be wrong just allows people to question their own perception of the world and of their own reality. And I think it's something that everyone should ask themselves way more often is, I might be wrong. Okay, what does it mean if I am wrong? What would then happen? What would then occur? How would my life change? Because that can also help you find your core beliefs. So back to the example we talked about a while back. Everyone in my family has always been overweight, therefore I can't do it. Okay, I also believe I might be wrong. So if I'm wrong, what does that mean? Wow, it actually means that I can do it. And just because my family is overweight, that has nothing to do with me being overweight.
Right.
And that in itself can be very, very freeing and can help break people away from really negative stories about themselves or the people around them.
Okay, yeah. I like that. And that helps you tie in the is this true statement as well. And I feel like you can't truly answer that statement unless you accept the fact that you can be wrong about things.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a huge ego and you think you're never wrong.
Right.
I think that's where
it's going to be hard.
That's definitely where it stems from. Yeah. That's a whole other root problem we got to fix, right? Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. What were the other 2? The might be wrong.
Beliefs are optional.
Beliefs are optional. I love that one. Beliefs are optional. That's big. And then what was the other one you said?
There's nothing to do but act.
There's nothing to do but act. Always adding an action to it. So you guys, your I am affirmations, switch them up to an action with them. Yeah. I'm choosing. I'm going to do that when I get home. I have some on my mirror. I'm going to go rewrite my sticky notes.
There you go. I promise you it will help significantly.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. I that's all of the questions that we had covering this. We pretty much touched on almost everything that I could think of. I think this is going to be really helpful for people who do struggle kind of with that diet culture specifically mindset that are still kind of stuck in that scale. Carbs make me fat, restrictive eating, stuff along those lines too. And I encourage anyone listening to this, rewind it and go back to where Travis and I were kind of breaking it down in that mock conversation and write down the questions and question yourself with it and kind of use it as a journal entry, like Travis said, and break it down within yourself and then repeat that if you have to. Keep repeating it until it feels more comfortable and to where you're really, truly just acknowledging and believing that that's not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
All about repetition.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add onto any of this? This was really great.
No, I feel like we covered a mass amount in a relatively short amount of time. So
I know. I think fantastic. So too. It's great. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, Travis, if you don't mind, I'll put your Instagram handle in the show notes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you guys want to talk about this stuff. Yeah. Or, if you're struggling with it, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to people about this stuff. So I'm an open book.
Yay. Yeah. I'll definitely put all of your Instagram stuff in the show notes. So if you're interested, go look there. Other than that, we really appreciate you coming on. This has been great. Thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It was a great time, and we should do it again someday.
Yeah, we'll come up with that other tangent. I forget what we mentioned. That was a whole nother rabbit hole.
The ego thing.
Yeah, the ego thing. We'll come up with another one.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. We'll get it on the schedule. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.